Welcome. So if you're new, my name's Joel. It's great to be with you this morning. Thanks for joining. We had a really good time last week. It was our first part of our Vision Sunday, and we looked at where we've come from. So we came from this church called, a lot of us came from this church called Jubilee that's been planted over 30 years ago, and we thanked God for what he had done in Jubilee. And this week, we're looking forward to, or looking at the present and forward, at what God is speaking to us about as Redeemer. What's our future going to look like? But last week, we just wanted to recognize that actually Jubilee played a part in our story. We fit into the story of Jubilee, just like we fit into the story being told throughout this book, throughout humanity, that is being told in the future. That when we get to play our part in what God, the story that God is telling. And so this morning, we're looking at what does it look like for us to be Redeemer in this book. Now, I don't know what you came expecting from a Vision Sunday. Maybe you're one of these people who likes like a 20-point, like 2-year, 5-year, 10-year plan about we're going to start doing this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, and then in a week and a half's time we're going to start doing this thing, this thing, this thing, this and this thing. Unfortunately, if you're one of those kind of people, that's not what we're doing this morning. We're a church plant. We're building something together as a church family and want to include and be a blessing to this town. But we're just building something. And when you build something, you just start brick by brick by brick by brick. And so that's what we're looking at this morning. We're looking in 1 Corinthians 3, verse 5 to 9. I'll pray before I read the passage. Yeah, God, I ask you to speak to us this morning. Just as we've been singing those songs, we recognize that it's all about you, that you came down, Jesus, you lived a perfect life, you died on a cross for us. We thank you for that moment 2,000 years ago that you died on a cross for us, that we get to be part of the story that you're telling. And God, I pray when you speak to us this morning about what it is for us to be a church in the middle of the town that serves the town, working alongside other churches that love you. And so, God, I pray you just put things on our hearts this morning. Remind us of words from the past. Remind us of dreams that you've given us when you speak to us. In Jesus' name, amen. So, in this passage in Corinthians, Paul's speaking to the church in Corinth, a persecuted church. They've got all sorts of things going on. And he's just addressing they've got divisions in the church. And this is what he says, chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "What then is Apollos? What is Paul? Servants through whom you believed as the Lord assigned to each. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. He who plants and he who waters are one, and each will receive his wages according to his labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. According to the grace of God given to me like a skilled master builder, I laid a foundation and someone else is building upon it. Let each one take care how he builds, for no one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ." And skip forward to verse 16. It says, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" And so in this passage, they're getting all caught up in which teacher do we follow? Is it this teacher Apollos? Is it this teacher Paul? When they're missing the bigger thing, it's Jesus that they serve. It's Jesus who unites them. And the word it uses, I don't know if you heard it there, to talk about Paul, to talk about Apollos, is a servant. And so these are incredibly gifted, great leaders, great teachers, but their title is servant. And so if you're looking for a role, if you're looking for a title this morning, you can't do any better than servant. Okay, you might think, there's got to be something. There's got to be something a bit more fancy. There's got to be. I want a bit more prestigious role. Servant is a great title. We read it in Philippians 2. Jesus, who says he came to serve, not to be served. Right? Jesus was called a servant, and we get to be called a servant. And in this passage, it uses this picture of a building, us being God's temple. It says we are God's building. And so we're called servants, but we're also called bricks. Okay, so two great, if you're going to be called something this morning, maybe they weren't your top two things. But in this passage, we're called servants and we're likened to bricks because it says God is building something. Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? You're a servant and you're a brick. In 1 Peter 2, verse 4, it says, as you come to him, a living stone, it's talking about Jesus, who's rejected by men, but in the sight of God, chosen and precious, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. And so I just want us to look this morning at two qualities that we need as bricks. If we're going to build something brick by brick upon the foundation that it says in that passage is Jesus, if we're going to be built into a dwelling place for God, then there are a couple of things that we need. So first brick-like quality is that we need availability. Okay, so I know you can build other things. I'm not a builder, but I believe that you can build from other things other than brick now. But for the purpose of this picture, let's just say bricks are the only thing we use to build houses. Otherwise, it just doesn't work for me. Okay? So, building a house depends on the availability of the materials, which for us is bricks. Okay, so you can't build a house if you don't have bricks. You can't build a team if you don't have people. You can't build without the available materials. And for us, that sometimes we're not as available as we like to think. Whether that's on a Sunday morning or whether that's in the week or whenever that might be. But I've heard I've been working with the church now for four years, and I've heard some good. I've only got stories about Sunday mornings, really. I've got some about weeks, but the Sunday morning ones are funnier. And so I've had people come up to me over the last few years. A few years ago, someone said, "I really want to serve. Just started coming. I love the worship. I love the teaching. I love the tea and coffee before. It seems great. I want to be involved in our Sunday morning meetings. What can I do?" And I said, "Oh, that's fantastic. We'd love to connect you in. We really value serving. It's important. It's an important part as we're a family together, serving one another. You know what? We really need some people on the setup team because they're quite stretched at the moment." And it's it's maybe not what I was. Is there anything else I can do? Because really, I was looking for a post 10 a.m. kind of serving slot. I'm not really looking for a 7:30, 8 a.m. serving time. I mean, there are other stories. Oh, the kids, are you kidding me? I really want to say, no way. Have you seen those kids? Have you seen what those kids are doing in the tea and coffee time? The way they grab those biscuits? You want me to control them in a room for an hour? You must be mad. And obviously, if you don't want to serve in the kids' work, be released. You don't have to. But we often want to we say, "God, use me. I'm available to be used." And then we need you to be used. We need you to be available. And we say, "Oh, actually, that's not quite what I'm after." And Sunday morning is important, but what about in the week? We want to be a people who are available to be used in our week. If God speaks to you when you're speaking to a friend, just prompts you to offer to pray for them, or to speak to them, invite them to church, or just to ask them, take a bit deeper questions than you would normally ask. Are you someone who is available? Because we're not going to be able to build anything here as a church or what we want to do outside of these walls if we're not available. And number 2 is connectivity. So we need materials that are available, but we also need to be able to be connected in, because here we go, I've got my prop. For those of you who can't see, it's a Lego building that my son kindly built this week for me. He's very proud of. But one brick on its own is not much good. Okay, one brick, if it's a Lego brick, it's something that causes pain when you stand on it, when you think your kids have tidied up the living room floor, and it turns out they haven't. Or if it's a real brick, which I just didn't want to put in my bag and cycle here this morning, then it's a single brick on its own is a thing of destruction. It's something that wreaks havoc. If you watch movies, a brick is something that's thrown through a glass window, or thrown from a building. All I can think of is Home Alone when I think of bricks being thrown off the top of a building and landing on someone's face. But a single brick is a thing that can wreak havoc, whereas the purpose of this brick is not for it to stay on its own. The purpose is to be part of something much bigger. Right? On its own, it's nothing, it's insignificant, but when it's built together, brick by brick, with other bricks, you can build a fortress, you can build a palace, you can build a temple. But it takes, being connected in, it takes unity. So because as you connect in, you're united with other people, and so it takes joining with others. And we talked about, if you were here on the family night last Sunday, about just as we come back together, having been in our homes, church online, and on Zoom, and all these different things the last 18 months, about the importance of unity as we gather back together, fighting for unity. And to be connected in, we need unity. Because the devil loves division, the devil loves discord, he loves things to be hard work. That's what, have you ever noticed? Obviously, Nikki and Mark won't know this, they're newly married. But marriages can be hard work. Their weekend, it's all glorious. But marriages can be hard work, can't they? Because the devil loves division, to make things difficult. Work can be hard work for most of us, I assume, unless anyone never has any problems in their work. Right? Church even, believe it or not, can be hard work. And it takes fighting for unity. It takes putting our other people's preferences before my own. And we can only do what we can do, right? So I'm responsible for fighting for unity, like you are responsible for fighting for unity. And it's easy to say, well, I would fight for unity, I would be united with my group leader, but you don't know my group leader. They are hard work. Or I would be united with my boss, but you don't know what my boss is like. They are a nightmare. Or I would be united with my husband or my wife, but you don't know my husband or my wife. They are hard work. But unity, it starts with you. For me, it starts with me. And when we looked at Jubilee and the church, some people stood up last week and they've been part of the church for 20 years, some 15 years, some 10 years. You don't stay part of a church for that length of time unless you are willing to fight for unity, unless you are willing to make sacrifices. Because over those years, there are all sorts of opportunities to take offense. There are all sorts of opportunities to opt out, to quit, to say, you know what, that's too much, I'm leaving, I'm going to go and do something else. And being part of a church family, being part of a family means you're willing to submit to other people's preferences, even when you don't necessarily agree. Being part of a family means putting up with people and submitting your preferences to others. It means choosing to believe the best in one another and fighting for unity. And so this probably, I don't know if it's good news or bad news. Probably bad news. The bad news is that it's not going to be any different for Redeemer. Right? It's not going to. Now we're in a building. It's not all of a sudden become this perfect church with no problems. You know, everyone always agrees. We're of one mind in every single thing. There will be times when it could be difficult, and the temptation would be to quit, or the temptation would be to opt out. Can I encourage you? Let's fight for unity, because we are about something so much bigger. There's something so much bigger that God is doing here. And we're on a mission together. And so if we're going to do anything of significance, we want to be available people. We also want to be connected as bricks. It says in this 1 Corinthians passage that what we do will be tested. In verse 11, in verse 12, it says, if anyone builds a foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each one's work will become manifest, for the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each has done. And so as we start building as Redeemer, we want to be careful about how we build. But it's not, it's in the passage, it doesn't say you want to start well. It doesn't say make sure that you start well. Although we do want to start well, and it's great to be together like this, and we're excited for what we have coming up. But the point of this passage is, did it finish well? Did it last? And so one of the reasons we're not just going to do 100 different things over the next couple of months is because we want to do things that we can sustain, things that we believe God has spoken to us about, and we want to do things well. So it's not about speed, but it's about strength. It's not about quantity of things that we can do, but it's about the quality of things that we can do. And so I just wanted to let you know a few of the things that we are doing, just in case you're not aware. So one of the things that we love that we get to do is we run Worthing Food Bank, and that used to be based out of the Tab when we didn't have a building, but now we've got this building, we're over here. And so Hayley and Julie, with their great group of volunteers, they run that, and it's great to be able to serve those who are vulnerable in our town who need some food for that week, and that's been running for the last few months, and we love that we get to do that. Another thing that we are just about to start running is Redeemer Tots, which starts a week tomorrow, which is going to be out in this back room here on a Monday morning, and we're excited to serve the parents and the mums, the dads, the grandparents, whoever might bring the 0 to 4-year-olds along on a Monday morning. We're excited for that to start happening next Monday. The youth have started using this space, and so they've been meeting. Actually, there's a tuck shop still out there, because I didn't notice it had been left out. And you should be aware, if you're leaving that out on a Sunday morning, I'm assuming it's kind of fair game. I'm looking at you, Catherine, and there's no money pot either. So is it just a free for all? Don't touch our tuck. Yeah. I'm just saying, I saw it there. I assumed that we'd added to the welcome, that we decided to not go for the fruit and the chocolate biscuits we used to have, and it was just pure sweets. And so we're excited. And one of the things that we're going to do this term is to have a youth hangout. So once a week, youth can come up after school and hang out here, build friendships, get to know some people. And so we're excited for that. And then also, hopefully, again, you know that the last 2 weeks ago, we opened rooms, which kind of is using all over this space in the week. So we're running a business during the week in this space, and that opened 2 weeks ago, and obviously it'll take a while to build up. But we're excited to be able to welcome people into our space so they can encounter God as they come up the stairs, and if they're going into meeting rooms over here, or we had the NHS using this auditorium the other day. We love that we get to welcome people in, and they get to experience something of the presence of God, whether they are followers of Jesus or not. As we welcome them, as we serve them well, as we do things well, they see something as God, as we represent God to them. Yeah. And so it's just been great this last week. Like I said, we had the NHS here on a Thursday, and we had a group over there, and it's just lovely seeing people in our space and been able to have conversations with people, and them asking, how do you raise money for this space? And what's this space used for? Who's running this space? And be able to talk about church and all the other things, the purposes of why we're here. And other things will come. So it's not to say we don't want to do other things. Of course we want to do other things. We want to be a blessing to this town. We want to serve the schools and the care homes and the hospital and all these other places. All these things that we want to do. And so we want strategies, we want plans, we want to do things well. And we believe that as we do that, people will encounter God, and we're going to be a blessing to this place. But we just want to get the first things first, which is why we're starting, as Rod said, this tonight through to Thursday with a week of prayer, because we just want to center ourselves around the thing that is central, which is Jesus. Okay, so we want to gather tonight and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm actually gathering next Sunday as well for a worship night. But we want to gather to God and pray together and just be in his presence, especially as we've had 18 months of not being able to do that so much, and it's been great singing on a Sunday morning. But just have some time where we're going to sing and pray together out in that room. I encourage you to come to make one. If you can make one of those, good. If you make two, great. If you make three, we'll give you a prize, because 3 is commitment. And we have actually got some, I thought Rob might have eaten them, but they're still there. Some chocolate bars are still in our office. And I haven't eaten them either, which is also a miracle. We've still got them. And so there will be prizes for people who can make 3 of those. Because we're building something together, okay? We're building together. And this idea of the temple that it talks about, that we are God's temple, that we are these spiritual stones being built up into a house for God, that's what as we gather together, we want to build together. Because in the Old Testament, the temple was Moses, they built the tabernacle, they put it up and put it down as they moved around, as they went through the desert, through the wilderness. And then they built the temple in Jerusalem. Israel built the temple, and God's presence was in this fixed place. And then Jesus comes, and the temple, which is where the presence of God is no longer in a place, but in a person. It's in a people. It's in you and me as we are filled with the Holy Spirit. It's not confined to a geographical location somewhere on the planet, but it's in each and every one of us as we are built into the temple with Jesus as the cornerstone. And so as we go out from here, the bricks, they like dislodge from each other, they dismantle, and we go out and we carry the presence of God to our town, to our communities, to wherever we go after here. And people get to encounter Jesus through you, through me, as we go out from this place. And so we're like this brick, okay? We are like this brick, except we're a living stone. And like I said, one piece on its own is insignificant, it's pointless. Maybe it looks a bit different to this other piece, but it's still just a brick. It needs to be connected into something bigger. It needs to be part of something bigger. And so we're just this one stone. And I don't know if you've ever been guilty of this, but sometimes we can think, well, I want to be part of it. I want to be connected and I want to be available, but I want to be this piece like here. I want to be at the front. I want to be visible. I want to be on the stage. I want to have some kind of presence. Or we can think, I want to be this piece here because that looks like a nice easy bit to be part of. There's not much going on there. That's a straightforward piece. Rather than think, I get to be part of the temple that God is building. I get to be part of the place where his presence is, built on the foundations of the apostles and the prophets. And we get to, as we build this temple together, I get to be built next to Mari as we serve together, as we're connected in, and Matt and Becky and Kerry, and we're connected in brick by brick. We're a place where the dwelling of God is. And I want to tell you, that's a good place to be. Because sometimes we can think, actually, no, I'm jumping ahead. Let me just go back. This is a good place to be. In the Old Testament, when the temple's finished in 2 Chronicles 7, the fire falls down and the glory of God fills the temple. And the people's response is to fall on their faces and worship in front of the glory of God. In Acts chapter 2, now we know the Spirit is inside us and we are the temple, like it says in 1 Corinthians and 1 Peter. In Acts 2, Jesus' followers are praying. The Spirit falls, fire comes down. They are filled with the Spirit of God. And I don't know about you, but I hope that's where you want to be. I hope you want to be part of the temple, because people who are part of the temple get to see the glory of God. They're filled with the presence of God. They're the ones who get to see the fire fall down. Not the people who are off on their own over here doing their own thing, this solo effort, but the people who are part of the temple. And it's not, and I'm privileged because I get to be a part of this temple. I'm privileged because I get to be part of the people who get to see the glory of God. And so I don't care if I'm this little piece at the back here that never gets to be seen, or if I'm this piece kind of in the middle that you only get to see once a year. If the sun's shining in the right direction and you squint your eyes a little bit, we get to be a part of the temple. So I don't care which part I am. It's a privilege to be part of the people of God, the temple that God is building. And he is looking for people who are available. God is looking for people who are connected. He's not looking for the best looking, the cleverest, the strongest, the most talented, the best dressed. He's looking for people who are available and people who are connected. And so I hope that's you this morning. I hope that's you. Because I do believe God has got great things for us as a church and for this town and for the nations. And we want to play our part, don't we? We want to be a part of it. I heard this great quote this week. I can't remember who it was from, but it was, following Jesus doesn't get you where you want to go, but it does get you where Jesus is going. And I think for us, sometimes we think, I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to go here. We want to be a people that we want to go where Jesus is going. We want to be a people who follow Jesus, and we want to end up in the place where he is, where his presence is. Which is why we just want to start this week by gathering together to pray and to worship and seek him. Because we want to be a people who follow Jesus, who are obedient to his voice. And so can I encourage you to come this week? Can I encourage you to think, actually, I want to be available as you go from here this afternoon, think, am I being available to what God is speaking to me about? And I want to be connected in, just as a complete aside. Can I encourage you, sign up to a group. Get connected in to a group if you're not already. But we're going to respond right now, Kira and Ruben, if you want to come up. We're going to just take a few minutes just to respond by acknowledging that Jesus is Lord, that we love him, and we want to worship him and give him the glory that he deserves. And let's stand.